Hey everybody, Austin here again, back with a Let's Play walkthrough. This time it's going to be a playthrough of the infamous Mega Man for MS-DOS. This is one not a lot of people seem to appreciate these days, but regardless of what you think of it, this is a fairly solid platformer for 1990 by PC standards anyway, with a lot more nuance and strategy than it's usually given credit. So what we're going to do in this playthrough is I'm going to take you through the entire game from start to finish. It's going to be relatively short and sweet playthrough, maybe 15 or 20 minutes long, and I'm going to talk you through each of the rooms and talk about my various strategies and some other aspects of the game and whatnot. Tell you how to access a couple of nice little secrets and things like that, and yeah, it should be a fun playthrough. So for those of you guys that, you know, have always had sort of a curiosity about this game and you've really wanted to put time into it, but you just haven't been able to crack it, you haven't been able to figure it out, this playthrough should be the perfect video for you. It should really help you get through the game, you know, learn some new strategies and things like that. When I played this game growing up, I actually just would brute force my way through it, and I still really enjoyed it. But it wasn't until revisiting it as an adult these last few weeks, I started really experimenting with different strategies and things like that. And the game just kind of opened up in a way that I didn't really appreciate before. You know, you only have 3 robot masters in this game, unlike, you know, the 8 of the classic NES games. But you can take them in any order, and depending on the order that you take them in, there are things that you can or cannot do within the levels based on, you know, the weapons that you have, and it's interesting. So, you know, hopefully, even if you don't decide to play this after watching this video, hopefully, you know, for those of you guys out there that really do not like the game, hopefully you'll have at least a slightly greater appreciation for it after watching various strategies and whatnot. And for those of you guys that want to actually try it out, hopefully this video will help you out and help you get through the game without too many problems. All right, so before we jump into the game, I actually went ahead and exited out so I can actually show you the startup screen, which is actually quite important in this game. If you select the right options or the wrong options, you might end up configuring the game improperly, and it'll look even worse than people normally think it does. But also, I am running this on the Mr. FPGA platform, which is replicating a 486 processor roughly at 90 megahertz. And because I'm using this platform, I can use a modern USB controller like this good old PlayStation Classic controller. This is actually a really awesome controller and a very good reason to have a PS1 Classic, because you can use this on a wide variety of devices, including classic PCs. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, that weren't around in 1990, Mega Man for MS-DOS does actually support traditional game port joysticks and controllers, like this good old Gravis gamepad right here that I have, as well as this Capcom PC Fighter 6, which was actually a 6-button controller that Capcom released with later DOS games like Mega Man X and Super Street Fighter 2. But yeah, for those of you guys that don't know what a Mr. FPGA is, I'm not going to explain it right now, but the short and sweet of it is that it is a little device that has the capability of replicating older hardware like game consoles and PCs and computers, other computers and whatnot, at a hardware level, as opposed to, you know, fully in software like you get with modern software emulators on a PC. For those of you guys that are interested in diving into the Mr. or seeing what it's all about, I'm going to have a link in the description box below to a couple of pages that you can read up on, so I don't have to explain the whole thing. But that's how we're actually playing Mega Man 1 for MS-DOS. We've got the AO486 core up, and as you can see, we've got our DOS prompt here. So if you want to start Mega Man, all you have to do is just type mm. It's just mm.exe, and it'll basically just start with this menu here. So the couple of big things here I wanted to explain before we jump into it is, for one, you've got graphics card. You want to do either EGA or VGA. Visually, in Mega Man, I don't even know why there is a VGA mode. It's pretty much identical to the EGA mode. The palette looks exactly the same. Mega Man 3, they ended up cutting out VGA completely, I think because of that. Just a wild guess anyway. But I'm going to do VGA just because. Animation also doesn't really seem to have an effect. I've turned this both on and off, and I've gone through multiple levels side by side, and I haven't really been able to tell a difference at all. So, you know, maybe this is something that you could turn off on older hardware where the game just does not run well, but in this case, it's just not really doing anything. Masking is an interesting option. Masking basically adds extra foreground layers that will actually cover up Mega Man. So on Voltman's level, there's actually clouds that Mega Man goes behind, kind of like in Mega Man 2 for NES. In Sonic Man's level, there's actually all these like water pipes and things like that. Mega Man will go behind. Enemies can also get layered on top or behind objects, which can, you know, make dealing with certain sections harder. Things like that. If you want the easiest time, I would turn masking off, but if you want the full experience, I would leave it on, because there is like this nice depth effect that people don't really give this game much credit with it on. So you want to leave that on. Or again, off if you want to make the game a little bit easier. Sound is going to be on. Unfortunately, this game only uses PC speaker sound, but thankfully the Mister, and if you play this through something like DOSBox, the PC speaker sound will just be sent through your speakers, which is nice, as opposed to the little teensy tiny PC speaker you'd have in an actual old computer. So that makes my life easier in terms of capturing the audio. Joystick, we're going to actually turn this off. If you were playing this on actual MS-DOS hardware and you had one of these game port controllers just like so, you would want to leave this on. But because of how the Mister reads the USB controller inputs, there's a conflict, and if I put joystick on, my character's just going to constantly run left, and that's a problem. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and jump into Mega Man for MS-DOS. Alright, so before we actually start playing the game, I want to go over a couple of features that are really important to know before you start playing the game. The biggest of which is the speed of the game. As you can tell, this game runs entirely too fast. Fortunately, the game does have, at least if you're running on an older processor or replicated an older processor like we are now, you can use the built-in slowdown function, which is F2, to reduce how fast the game plays. And so we hit F2 a bunch of times, and there we go. Now the game is a hell of a lot more manageable. Second, this game doesn't have any in-game music. It just uses PC speaker for sound effects. So to make this viewing experience hopefully a little more appealing to you guys, I'm going to add some music into the background. So there we go. Hopefully that helps the viewing experience a little bit, and you guys enjoy watching this playthrough a little bit better, or a little bit more. Last point of contention are these dogs you have to deal with on the introduction stage. If you don't do it just right, they just jump on top of you over and over and over again, and you'll probably end up dying before you even get to the gate. But the trick is to just let them hop over you once, and then just stay in front of them about this far, all the way down to the end of the level, and then you'll be fine. So let's go ahead and do that and demonstrate that. So we basically just wait for the dog to jump over us, and then we stop, and then just inch our way forward just like this. It's very easy. A lot of people struggle with this part, but the solution is very simple, and you can turn around and shoot, and if you kill a dog, another one appears in its place, and then it's just rinse and repeat. It's the exact same thing over and over and over again. So there we go, just like that. We hit the gate, and now we're done with our introduction level. So this game only technically has 5 levels. It's got the intro, it's got the 3 boss masters, or robot masters, and then it's got Dr. Wily's stage, where we fight all the robot masters again as well. So just like other Mega Man games, you can go through the game in any order you want. You know, I can do Dynaman first, or Sonic Man first, or whatever. I find if you're starting to learn this game for the first time, just go left to right. Go Sonic Man, Voltman, Dynaman. And that's the easiest way to do it. The reason for that is Sonic Man's weakness works on Voltman, and Voltman is the hardest boss in the game. Voltman's weakness works on Dynaman, and I'd say Dynaman is the second hardest boss because his pattern is very erratic. So let's go ahead and start off with Sonic Man. Now keep in mind you do have to use the keyboard to access the Robot Master levels, and you also have to use the keyboard to bring up your menu if you want to switch weapons. And you have to press the key for the weapon that you want. So I want to go back to my standard Buster, so I have to hit P just like so. So yeah, first thing here, we have to deal with some frogs. So I'm going to try to, destroy them as they hop at me. And that was pretty good. Normally they actually swarm me, and, I really struggle to deal with them. You guys have to blow down these walls while dealing with these bats, and you'll notice that the walls actually explode. You do not want to touch the explosions, because they actually do damage to you. And there are a couple of enemies in the game that explode like that when you kill them as well, so you have to be careful. So first tricky thing here that we have to memorize is to fall down to the right and then jump immediately and get into this little safety zone right here. You'll notice that these turrets are not able to hit me. And then what I do is I take out these turrets one by one, just like so. So there's one turret, and then there's another one, just like that. And down below, there's a little rat, and you can really only hit him with your buster shot if you're jumping from down below, or if, you know, he's standing. So I'm gonna kind of wait and get behind him and shoot him as he stands up, just like that. And now we have one of the more difficult rooms in the game, if you're trying to go through it at least without taking damage. You notice that these pipes are shooting out projectiles, just like so. So I really just want to wait for them to shoot and then make my movements, just like so. And what I'd like to do is get rid of these rats. The rats have a tendency of not respawning, which is nice. And so I'm just going to fall down here, just like so. And there's an extra life. I'm going to go ahead and just tank some damage, just like so. And then come on down here like this. Go ahead and get rid of this rat. Now, I do want to go back up and show you a cool little secret I actually just discovered today. Let's actually get that health right there as well. Now, if you actually went to Dynaman's level first, you can actually use his dynamite attack and blow open this wall. When you go down, there are several more walls you have to destroy as well, and you'll get yourself some health and an extra life. However, I can't actually blow this up right now. You have to have Dynaman's weapon to do this. But we're going to touch on that a little more later. So what I'm going to do is actually work my way back up. I don't really care if I take too much damage here, because I've got that health refill. But it's this part I wanted to talk about. You'll notice that there's this energy tank. If I come over here and I try to jump up and grab it, it is pretty much impossible to do that. However, I figured out today there's an invisible ladder. If you jump and hold up, you can actually grab onto a ladder just like so and get yourself that energy tank. There are a total of 2 energy tanks in the game. That is the location of one of them. And we're going to have another frog to deal with right here. Now, something I wanted to show you is that, you know, a lot of enemies will just respawn infinitely in this game. Lots of them. Not all of them, but lots of them. And these little frogs are enemies that do that. And so you can actually just push them off the screen, find their spawn spot, and then just grind out on them if you want to get your weapon energy back or your health back, just like so. More frogs in this hallway. And now we're going to go for a swim. And what I like to do is try to stay on the bottom route here, and then just deal with these fish as they, you know, try to float towards me, just like so. This bottom fish you can actually kill pretty easily if you just stand on one of these platforms. And then when there's not a single tiered platform like this, I try to just, you know, just jump through the fish, try to dodge them like it's a shoot 'em up or something like that. Now there is something I want to do here. Is I want to kill these rats up top and hopefully dodge these fish in the process. You know, you're not timed in this game, so it's totally okay to just walk backwards like this. If you feel like you're not getting a good pattern, just simply walk backwards to allow yourself to dodge these things a little bit easier. But I want to go ahead and kill that rat as well, which I did. But you notice that there's that room above. That wall that blocked our way earlier, that you had to have Dynaman's attack, is actually that room right there. It leads to this room. And there's a little secret here. If you jump just right, you can actually go through the ceiling just like so. And I went ahead and took a hit. I was being a little sloppy there, but that's okay. This is not going to be a perfect run. This game is a little tricky. It's difficult to do the whole thing without taking damage. You have to be really on point with this game. But there we go. We have ourselves an extra life and some health refills. And if we hit escape, we can actually see how many lives we have. So it says that we have 4 lives right now. That number will probably go up as we progress. And you'll notice that there's actually this solid wall right here. It's actually kind of interesting. If you come down the front way and you use Dynaman's attack, there's actually a wall right here that actually blocks you from going down into the water. So kind of disappointing you can't take a cool shortcut and sequence break. And if you come up from down below, the game's smart enough to put another wall in front of you so you can't go back up. So kind of interesting little detail there. So, and here we go. We're going to go ahead and just fall right back down just like so. I'm going to wait for this fish and then jump over just like that. And we're going to find ourselves a ladder to the right here. And now this is an example of the mask effect. So I talked about masking earlier, where objects can block other characters in the game. This is one of the parts where the enemies get masked. So basically the enemies swim in from behind, whereas when you turn masking off, they swim in from the front, and so you can see them a lot easier. Alright, so this section right here, we have more infinitely spawning bats. So this is actually a really simple section, and it's actually really good, because if you get here with pretty much no health, you can just grind out on these enemies and just get all your health back, which is nice. Now, these parts right here, where you have to jump over this electricity, you have to jump kind of early. The hitboxes in this game are not great at all, but Mega Man has such a, you know, a long jump arc that, you know, it's pretty easy to jump early and still make pretty much every jump in this game. There are no truly, like, pixel-perfect jumps in this game, if you ask me. It's not like, you know, some of the classic Mega Mans where you gotta get Mega Man halfway off the platform, you know, before you even have a chance of making the jump. Mega Man, Castlevania, you know, those are games that pulled tricks like that. So a couple things to note here. I'm gonna get rid of these bats. There are actually two ways up. I can actually go and come up this ladder. If I come up this ladder, I want to wait so I can deal with this frog. But if I actually come back down, just like so, whoops, got hit by a bat, that's not a big deal, and I make this jump across here, I can actually come up this ladder and come immediately to this area right here. It's not really much of a shortcut, but, you know, it does give you a couple different ways you can go on this section. And, you know, we just have some rats. The rats, again, pretty easy to deal with. Just have to wait for them to stand up if you're just using your standard buster. And, yeah, not too difficult. Alright, so now we have the traditional Mega Man disappearing blocks. And so just like in the classic NES games, you kind of want to wait and watch them, especially in this part right here, because there's one that appears directly above. Now, you'll notice that there's this electric eel right here, and this is actually an opportunity to grind out to get your health back up for the boss fight. So let me go ahead and just, you know, demonstrate that a little bit. He just constantly respawns here, just like so, and there we go, I got my health back. He takes a lot of hits, but, you know, if you want to play it safe, which this game allows you to do, again, it's a Mega Man, you're not timed or anything like that, you know, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and take your time to increase your chances of survival. And this is actually the lead up to the boss fight. Now, if, you know, I was playing one of the other bosses, I would stop and I would equip my weapon before going into the arena. But since I don't have a special weapon for this boss, we're just going to go ahead and fight him as is. So yeah, Sonic Man likes to shoot these projectiles across the screen. And what I want to do is just get right in front of him like this. And by doing so, his projectiles would just go right on over top of me. And if I do it just right, I can do it without taking much damage. And you'll notice that after the second phase, I jumped over him to get to the other side. And the reason for that is if he corners you, his projectiles get bunched up and it's pretty much impossible to, like, squeeze your way through them. So, yeah. Alright, on to our second Robot Master, which is going to be Voltman. Again, I like going from left to right. I find it to be the most efficient way of going through the game. But it is really cool doing things out of sync as well, because, you know, just adds replay value. Alright, so the start of this level, you've got these sparks that like to go across the ground. I like to take the top route, simply because when you get hit by the sparks, you get knocked down below. And if you're on the bottom rung, or ring, or whatever, the bottom tier, you're going to actually fall down into an endless pit. One thing you also have to do is watch out for these birds. They just constantly spawn in. They take like 4 or 5 hits, and they're really tricky to deal with. And they get blocked by the backgrounds as well. It's another reason to turn off masking. And for this part right here, we have these mosquitoes as well, which can also be a little irritating to deal with. Just look at their circular patterns. I like to watch out for the sparks up top as well, and then just try to move forward when there's an open gap. Now, unfortunately, there's some kind of, like, magnetism going on here, because Mega Man is just kind of getting stuck to this thing, and it makes dodging these enemies extra difficult. But these mosquitoes are enemies that just constantly respawn, so even if I get sloppy like this, I can just move back and then move forward, and then they'll pretty much reappear. Now, what's interesting is that some enemies will just respawn instantly. Like, there's an invisible line you cross and then the enemy appears, kind of like Ninja Gaiden. But other enemies sort of respawn on timers, and these mosquitoes are one such enemy type, where, you know, it's just, after you kill them, a few seconds later, some appear again, and that's pretty much it. So, Very sloppy gameplay here, but that's Mega Man for MS-DOS for you. I've had runs where I've gone through the whole game almost perfectly. I've had runs like this where I get hit by almost like every other thing, and it's just, it is what it is. And I'm also taking my time here simply because like I wouldn't mind getting some of my health back. So let's go ahead and let these guys spawn back in. But again, these machines just kind of like suck you towards them, which makes the movement, movement tech here a little irritating. Now again, just like a classic Mega Man on NES, you can press the jump button when you're on a ladder and you'll just let go. We also have some flying enemies are going to appear, so they're going to spawn in, then we're going to move out to the other direction just to avoid their projectiles. Now they too are on timers, and so what I want to do is make sure I'm constantly shooting up like this to hit them as they spawn back in. Now, this blue magnetic thing is actually trying to suck me towards it as well, and so getting past these beams is also very difficult without taking damage. You've got to time your movement just perfectly. So now what I want to do is actually press escape, and we're going to select Sonicman, and then we're going to attack immediately. There are multiple ways you can go through this section, but the easiest way is just to use Sonicman's weapon, just like so. And you know, Sonicman's weapon is great. You'll notice that it sort of travels closer to the ground than your regular pea shooter does, and so that's the easiest way to deal with those guys. Now, if you use your standard Buster shot and you sort of taper your shot like this, the spiders will end up just landing right on top of your projectiles, and I don't think they're going to. Ooh, they are going to respawn, so I can demonstrate it. So okay, these guys are just going to constantly respawn. Okay, this is interesting. They all spawned in one after another, even though they were off the screen. That was very interesting. I've never seen that before. So, okay, I can't really demonstrate it, but we have more mosquitoes here. And I like this part because, again, I can grind out and try to get my weapon energy back, and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and switch back over to Sonic Man so I can get that energy back. Again, I'm going to be using Sonic Man's weapon on Voltman because it's his weakness. And I'm going to go ahead and kill these mosquitoes again. I'm going to wait for this spider just to jump over him. Even more mosquitoes. And another spider right here. And just go underneath just like that. Alright, so a little trick here. This is a one-time thing. If you drop down, you cannot get back up to get this. So we're going to switch over to Sonic Man, hold right, and just shoot. And you notice that Sonic Man's weapon just bounces off the walls in a 45-degree angle. So that's how you can get that energy tank. And we have, I think, the only 2 energy tanks in the game. I don't think there are any other energy tanks in the game. So more disappearing blocks right here. And this part is actually really tricky because you'll notice that water there. It's not just for decoration. That water actually pushes you down. And so what you need to do is try to jump in the middle of the water. Otherwise, your jump arc is going to be all screwed up, just like that. And if you don't do things just right, you end up dying, and then you've got to go all the way back to this checkpoint right here. Deal with the flying enemies, dealing with the magnetic stuff again. I just got sucked in. I had no control over that. So yeah, there are definitely some irritating design choices in this game. You just kind of get used to them, like a lot of other, you know, Western developed, you know, computer games from the same time period. It just is what it is. You kind of get used to it. So just got to time this right, and I just messed up there, and again, and there we go. Now I'm going to try to show you how you can just run right through this. I'm going to run, jump, run, and jump, just like that. So yeah, you basically have 3 different ways you can get through that section, which is nice. You can just not shoot anything at all. You can just kind of taper your shots, and hopefully have the enemies land right on top of your shots. Or you can use Sonic Man's weapon and go about it that way. Alright, so let's try this again. So again, we want to land in between the water. Otherwise our jump is going to be compromised. Just like so. And this one's even harder. And there we go. Good, we got it. Now this should be a checkpoint right here, thankfully. There's going to be 1 frog. And then there's going to be an eel. So what I want to do is actually just wait right here for this eel. So we're going to go ahead and just wait again just to demonstrate it once more. I'm going to try to follow it. This is a really fast eel. And then what I want to do is just wait and then jump over it like that. Don't bother trying to kill that eel. It's way too fast. There's another frog right here. Memorizing the frog locations is really good. Now there are 2 different ways you can go here. You can actually take the top route with the platforms, or you can take the bottom route with the water. I recommend the bottom route, simply because you can get knocked down into other enemies from the top, and it's very frustrating. If you take the bottom route, you avoid the flying enemies completely. But you'll notice there that I intentionally went up to the right so I can get myself an extra life. So knowing where the extra lives is kind of nice too. I oftentimes don't need the extra lives in this game, but I like getting them anyway just to be safe. So I'm basically just waiting, jumping down here, destroying the eels, and then just destroying the frogs as well. The frogs will not jump towards you, thankfully, so if you sit towards the right-hand side of the wall, you'll be fine. So another eel just like so, just jump down, give it a few good shots, jump back up, rinse and repeat. Very simple stuff, it's not too difficult as long as you take your time. Sometimes the flying enemy can respawn there, so you gotta be careful about that. And this is our boss fight. So, Voltman is an interesting boss in that, his jump patterns are just completely random. Sometimes he'll jump and then do his special attack, which makes him vulnerable. And then other times he'll jump like 4 times. Sometimes he'll jump twice. Sometimes he'll do it 3 times. And it's very erratic. There's no rhythm or rhyme. There's no way to control it. So you just have to really play on your toes on this boss fight. And I think that's what gives a lot of people trouble. So we're waiting for his shield to come apart, and then when that happens, he's vulnerable. So let's see if we can do that. Once he becomes vulnerable, I like to try to hit him immediately with Sonicman. Mash as fast as I can. A lot of other times, I just go underneath him, just like so, and boom, just like that. Whew. That was a good fight, actually. That was a really good fight. I didn't take any damage, which is very, very rare for that fight. I mean, I've done it multiple times. I've beaten this game so many times over the years. But, you know, it's very inconsistent because, again, his pattern is very erratic. Just like Dynaman's pattern. Now, another reason I wanted to go to Voltman Stage is the very beginning of Dynaman Stage. You can actually use Voltman's weapon to become invincible to a lot of projectiles in this game. So I'm going to go ahead and just use it to just get rid of, or just to not take any damage from these guys' projectiles. So I'm going to go ahead and just kind of rush through, just like so. And if I see these guys, I'm going to go ahead and just try to jump over them. And there we go. Didn't take any damage because I was able to use Voltman's weapon. Just like so, and then we can go ahead and come on up this way. These are conveyor belts, just like classic Mega Man 2 on Metal Man Stage. They will push you in the direction that they're moving. Do not touch those spikes, you will die instantly. But you'll notice that I ran out of ammo for Voltman's weapon, and if you're out of ammo, Mega Man's just going to keep trying to shoot, but nothing's going to come out. So I have to hit escape again, press P to switch back to my my basic shot, and then we're good to go. These things are kind of interesting. They just make noise, but they don't actually... Oh, they do hurt you. Okay. They don't hurt you if you just walk right into them, but I guess you just can't land on top of them. Now, definitely follow those arrows. Those arrows are there for a good reason. And if you actually end up landing into these things like this, they actually don't hurt you, which is very interesting. So just like that, you can actually go right through them. You know, I've always thought that they actually do damage to me, but they actually do not. More disappearing platforms, but this one's a lot easier because you don't have water pushing you down. So as long as you're quick with your jumps here, you should be fine. And now this part, you want to kind of be a little quick. You want to get to the edge of the platform, and then the fire will not hurt you, just like so. Now this part's kind of interesting. You can use Voltman's weapon here again as a shield, or you can just move straight ahead. Now since I don't have Voltman's ammo, I can't actually use his ability right here. So we're going to do it the traditional way. What I want to do is just move forward immediately the second like those things, you know, drop their projectiles. Now, if you try to do this on the higher platforms, you are going to take damage. You need to be on the lower platforms when you move ahead. So it's basically wait for them to come across right before they start dropping their projectiles or their lava or whatever it is, or fire. Then you just start moving forward. It's very simple, actually. A lot of the stuff in this game feels unfair and unpolished when you first play the game. But as you learn the mechanics and you experiment, you learn the patterns, you realize this is actually a very playable game with a lot of nuance and strategy in order to get through it without too much trouble. So what I could also do here is actually use Voltman's weapon once again, but I used it so much in the first section that I'm not able to actually sort of cheat my way through here. So I have to actually dodge these projectiles legitimately, just like so. And they spread out at kind of a weird arc, and it can be a little difficult to deal with them sometimes. But this part right here, pretty easy stuff. Just wait for these to come out and then go back in and then just move forward when, you know, when they're not out. very basic stuff right here, not too complex. And we've got ourselves a ladder. Now this next section, it's good to use Sonicman's weapon. And what I really want to do is try to grind out a little bit, if I can, so I can get Voltman's weapons back up. I ended up using all of Voltman's energy, which is unfortunate because it's the weakness for this boss fight. So let's go ahead and just use Sonicman's weapon right here. Oops, look at that. Or not oops, but I mean, goody. That's actually really good. So I'm going to actually replenish Voltman's weapon again. Multiple different ways you can actually get through this part. If you don't have Sonicman's weapon, it is actually possible to do little baby jumps like that. It's extremely tight, trust me, and it's very scary. But I'd rather just use Sonicman's weapon here, just like so. It's the easiest way to go about this. Now, I did get some Voltman energy back, and again, like I said, Dynaman is very erratic in his motions. He likes to jump high, he also likes to jump low. So what I like to do is just get right next to him and just constantly mash my attack button while using Voltman. Let's see if we can do that. Very sloppy, but it worked. I only took a couple of hits. He doesn't do that much damage to you, thankfully, unlike Voltman, who does do a lot of damage to you. And, but yeah, that's it. That's the 3 Robot Masters. Now, we apparently got key cards, which allows us to access Dr. Wily's castle. And so there we go. Lots of frogs here in the very beginning. So what I'm going to do is just sort of inch my way forward just like this and then taper my shots. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So when you get to Dr. Wily's level, you get all your energy replenished. So I get all my health back. I get my weapon energy back. And I think that's the last of the frogs. And now we've got these guys, familiar Mega Man enemies, classic Mega Man enemies. And now we're going to fight Sonic Man once again. So this is kind of a little bit of a boss rush, but I'm going to try to use Dynaman's weapon on him. And what I like to do is try to jump and use it. The higher you use it, the more likely it's going to bounce into the air. And because Sonic Man is sort of floating in water, you want it to bounce into him. And if you do it just right, you can just insta-kill him. So let's see if we can do that. So he's going to do his projectile. I'm going to drop my mine like that, and boom. Not great, but yeah, not great at all, actually. Let's try this again. Boom, just like that. I didn't get it just right. If you get it just right, you can kill him in one hit, and it's pretty satisfying. But you get health refills and energy refills afterwards, so it's not that big of a deal. Let's switch back over to my basic buster shot, just like so. And we're going to have some more mosquitoes. And just like so, which is like another good way of getting your energy back. You know, again, these mosquitoes just constantly spawn in. And more spiders. Again, if you taper your shots, you can actually hit them as they fall down. Just like so. And now it's Voltman again. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to try to fight Voltman without my weakness. Just to make the fight a little more interesting. So he's going to jump over me, just like so. And oh man, it's a very tricky fight. Just like that. I always try to go underneath him after his first jump. His first jump usually goes higher. Just like that. Nope. That was bad too. It's okay. Super sloppy fight, but I mean that's just how Voltman goes. It's a tough fight. And you can see it's a tough fight because of how erratic his jumps are. There are some times where he jumps very low and it's almost impossible to go underneath him. But you have to go underneath him. If you don't, he's going to land on top of you. If he corners you, you're going to get hit by his projectiles and there's nothing you can do about it. But basically what we're doing now is we're revisiting each of the 3 level themes. And so we're back to Dynaman's level theme, just like so. Now I could use Voltman's weapon to, you know, again, shield myself from these projectiles. But I want to save Voltman's weapon for after Dynaman, because there's a tough section that's hard to get through without taking damage. So just like on Dynaman before, we're going to just get to the edge of these platforms. The fire's going to go over us, just like that. That fire doesn't do a whole lot of damage, so it's not really a big deal. Let's go ahead and fight him with just the Buster as well, just for fun. So you can see how his jump patterns are very erratic as well. Sometimes it's high, sometimes it's low. And so you're bound to take damage on that fight. But what I'm going to do now is actually switch over to Voltman and use this to dodge some projectiles. I'm going to dodge these guys right here. And just like that. You can also use it on those guys as well. So dodge the projectiles and then use it again, just like so. Ooh, I took a hit. Interesting. Was not expecting to take a hit like that. So you get some health refills. Now, interestingly, if you do die, these actually disappear. So you need to make sure that you're only grabbing what you need, just in case you do die and you have to go back to a checkpoint and you're low on weapon energy. So this is Dr. Wily. There's actually a couple of different ways you can do this. All the boss weapons do damage, which is fortunate. Sonicman is probably the best way to go, so we're going to go ahead and do that. And actually, you know what? We're not going to do that. We're going to go ahead and just fight Wily normally. Basically, what Wily does is he shoots low, medium, then high, and that's just it. And you go back to each side of the arena, and you jump over him, and I'll just demonstrate that right now. So I'm going to sit here and just do some damage, jump over just like that, and then just rinse and repeat. As long as he's off screen, you're not going to be able to see his projectiles. And then just rinse and repeat. Go from one side to the other, just like so. And I like to taper my shots like this just to get some shots going. And this is very sloppy, but that's okay. Ah, super sloppy, man. Last time I practiced this, I got a really clean fight. But it's okay, not a big deal. The big thing you gotta watch out for is when he turns around, you've gotta listen for his shot patterns. And, you know, if you jump over him, preferably you jump over him when he's not, like, about to start a new pattern. If he does, you're gonna just land right into one of his projectiles, so. But yeah, that's Mega Man for MS-DOS. We just beat the game, start to finish. Unfortunately, it was not the cleanest run. I was hoping to get a much better run, but sometimes with these Let's Plays, I'm not doing them 15 times to get a really clean run. The point is to get through the game, talk about strategies, try to zoom in on some stuff for those of you guys that want to try to learn the game for the first time, and just try to enjoy it yourself. This is a much maligned game. A lot of people do not like this game. You read about it on the internet and people write, it's the worst DOS game ever made. Worst Mega Man game ever. Maybe that's true, worst Mega Man game, but it doesn't mean it's a bad game. It's just different. And I actually really enjoy this game. I think there's a lot of nuance to it. There's a lot of strategy. And when you actually know what you're doing in this game, even if you're stuck playing with the keyboard, as opposed to, you know, a classic gamepad, which the game does support, you know, the game's still perfectly playable. And you learn the strategies, you learn the boss weaknesses and stuff like that. You learn the boss patterns. And I think the game's actually quite enjoyable, especially for a 1990 DOS platformer. There were not many games like this in 1990 on PC, and you know, I think the game is still pretty fun. So for those of you guys that, you know, are maybe you're masochists, maybe you're not, maybe you're just like me and you're just naturally curious and you want to try this game out, and you get the speed working correctly and things like that, hopefully this video, you know, will help you out on your journey to defeat this game. I am going to be following up with Mega Man 3. So there was a sequel for MS-DOS called Mega Man 3. It's got 6 Robot Masters instead of just 3. And Dr. Wily's castle is a lot more challenging. So there's a lot of cool stuff there to talk about. It's more of the same in terms of, you know, the action, although you do have swim functionality and things like that. And the levels are much bigger. But, you know, it seems like the basic engine is very similar. So, but yeah, I'm going to be back with that hopefully sometime very soon in the next few weeks. For those of you guys that don't ever plan on playing these, hopefully at least you still enjoyed watching the video. Hopefully you might even have a newfound sort of appreciation for the game, you know, with a lot of the stuff that I showed off. It's not the trash that it's made out to be. Yes, it's kind of a far cry from the NES games, but it doesn't mean that it's one of the worst games ever made. Especially considering it was a 1 or 2 person team. But yeah, it's a fun game. I like it. Yeah, I don't know if I mentioned it, but I actually played this game a lot as a kid. I actually had it, ran it on a 286 based PC, MS-DOS, and yeah, I have always enjoyed it. And I'm glad I came back to it for this Let's Play series. I've been meaning to do this for such a long time, but just haven't found an amazing way to record it. And the Mister is the way to do it. Just a FYI, if you hit space or any key actually there, you'll actually get sent right back to your DOS prompt. If for some reason it just boots you right out. Yeah, so for anybody out there still, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. If you're new to my channel and you like Let's Plays like these, please consider subscribing. I've got many like them and many, many more to come. For all you guys already subbed, thank you as always for your continued support. And I guess until the next one, take it easy.